Hi guys, so after going through this lesson with my 8A classes, we realized that it was just way too much work for you guys to do in the course of a block. So I'm going to do a read aloud for the text today. You should have your guided notes with you, and I've highlighted all the keywords, and I'm quickly just going to go over. I'm not going to read the text. I'm actually just going to read what's on this so you guys can go through it. If you need to pause or rewind, please go ahead and do so. All right, here we go. So Cush, then and now, existed at the same time as ancient Egypt, also known as Nubia, land of gold. Located south of Egypt on the Nile River, parts would reach as far north as Aswan, Egypt, and parts of Sudan. Existed over 1,000 years. Had three important cities. Kerma was the first. There they mined gold, raised cattle, and traded with the Egyptians to the north. Napata was the capital city when Kush was its most powerful. It's a center of arts, culture, and architecture. Sorry, I lost my place. And it was, Meroe was the last one in the southern part of the kingdom. It was a port on the Red Sea. After invaders sacked Napata, Meroe became the capital city. It was very prosperous. Okay, next page. Okay, so how did Kush gain power and influence? Large deposits of gold, iron ore, emeralds, and other minerals. Forests in southern part of Kush provided wood for building. The Nile and Atbara rivers provided water. Water was used for drinking and irrigation, creating land good for farming and raising crops. Grazing cattle and raising crops. The Nile road flowed from south to north, from parts of Kush into Egypt and the Mediterranean Sea. Meroe, the port city, and other towns attracted caravans from places in the southern and middle parts of Africa. They arrived with exotic goods like ivory and ebony and leopard skins. They could load their wares on boats and travel to Egypt or cross the Red Sea to Saudi Arabia, then by caravan to India and Asia. They had reserves of gold, which brought wealth to the merchants of Kush. Okay, good. Move on to the next section. Okay, next section. How did Egypt influence Kush? Kush and Egypt kingdoms were closely related through trade and conquest. Boats and travelers moved back and forth between the kingdoms along the Nile, while caravans and armies crossed the deserts. Kushites had valuable resources, gold, livestock, wood, and luxury items, but not as technologically advanced as the Egyptians. As traders exchanged goods, they also traded customs and ideas, cultural diffusion. For example, they adopted Egyptian standardized method of weights and measures, which made trade easier. They learned hieroglyphics but developed their own alphabet. They also built pyramids. Egyptian fashions were popular with Kush people, and they believed in an afterlife. We're cruising. All right, so moving right along, and of course, the kids came in for Chrome Room, and I got distracted. All right, so here we go. Second to last section. Ideally positioned as a crossroads. Is that blocking you? Because it's blocking me, and I'm going to... On the crossroads of trading in the ancient world, controlled traffic of the Nile River and a major port on the Red Sea. Had great natural resources, including large deposits of iron ore. When Assyria invaded Egypt, they forced the pharaoh back to Kush. The iron weapons were far superior to the bronze swords of the Kushites and Egyptians. From Assyrians, they learned how to smelt iron and to make tools such as axes and plows. Many merchants passing through highly valued this technology and were willing to pay a high price for it. Uh-oh. It added to the kingdom's wealth. All right, we are almost done here. So, after separation from Egypt, Cush returned to its African roots. Artwork, clothing, and buildings no longer imitated Egyptian style. They worshipped the African lion god rather than Egyptian gods. They wrote and spoke a native language. They revived the practice of female leadership. Powerful candidates, queen mothers ruled. One of the greatest was Queen Amararenes, who defended Cush against Rome in 24 BCE. The Romans had conquered Egypt. They demanded tribute from Cush. So Queen Amararenes and her son led an attack on Roman forts, and after 3 years of fighting, they signed a peace treaty with Rome. Eventually, Cush was overshadowed by Ethiopia. Okay, so this is the end of this. You should move on, get your study guide out. You can fill in a bunch of questions from here. In fact, why don't I take a moment to go over these questions with you, and then you will start your station walk. So let's find starting with question number 23. What is the relationship between Egyptians and the Cushites? Why was it described as complicated? Because they were constantly unifying and then conquering each other. Number 24, why was Cush an important trading hub or center? Because it was the crossroads of the Nile River, the Red Sea, and the Mediterranean Sea. Why did the Cushites experience cultural diffusion? Because of all of this trading that was going on from different parts of Asia, India, and Africa, but also, most importantly, because they were such close neighbors with Egypt. They were constantly doing a back and forth, and they really adopted some of the Egyptians' culture and technology. Why did Egypt fall to Cush, much like Sumer fell to the Akkadians? They became too big to manage. They had infighting, and they just couldn't get along. 28. How did the defeat by the Assyrians impact Cushites? It brought technology, particularly for iron weaponry, to them. How did the defeat by the, number 29, what does the worship of a lion god in Cush demonstrate about the influence of Cushite culture? So it shifted from Egyptian influence to African influence. Number 30, why was Cush able to avoid becoming part of the Roman Empire? Because of the queen. She fought back, they raided, they fought, and then they signed a peace treaty. What caused the fall of the kingdom of Cush? And the answer to that is Africa. Ethiopia. Very good. All right, so that was just a big chunk of sections, and you're going to now take your study guide over to the stations. It doesn't really matter what order you do them in, and you're going to get to work. There are directions when you click through all the readings for today. I will show you. Hall of Pharaoh's Gallery Walk is what you're going to do next. All right? Good job.